Hello, everybody. So, tomorrow, April 1st, we will be having a full moon in the sign of Libra. And so, I thought I would take this opportunity to come on here and check in with the cards to see what archetypal expressions we might expect to see out in the world or within ourselves around this time, and get some insight into how we can work with the energies that are coalescing. So I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to go silent. I'm going to concentrate while I shuffle, and I will be with you momentarily. Okay, I'm just going to say a prayer over these cards. So, a lot of what's coming up here is highlighting this time of new beginnings in the face of old structures, old identities, old habit patterns coming to an end, falling away. And what comes after? What comes on the other side of the death of the old way? And how might we be active participants in what we are choosing to create, even as the old ways are falling down around us, and rightfully so. Um, so, here we have the Page of Swords and the Page of Wands. So we are both being called to acknowledge the proper use of the mind, the imagination. It is so important, again, this idea of rebelling against oppressive structures. While it is absolutely essential that we do this, that we put energy and effort into opposing injustice wherever we see it, It is not enough only to push against these forces. We have to be willing to create something new. And first and foremost, what we're called to do is to imagine what it would look like and feel like to live in a world where everyone was capable of caring for themselves, having their most basic needs provided for. What kind of stability would we experience as a collective society, really as a planet, if we had the energy, the resources, the attunement, the compassion to care for ourselves in a good way, so that we had energy and effort to then extend to others, to our neighbors, to our ecosystem. It is essential that we begin this process of imagining something new, something that looks radically different from what we're experiencing right now. This hierarchy of haves and then this massive base of have-nots. The people who are struggling, the people who are dying, as a result of really greed, greed and uh, the lack of empathy that allows people to take advantage of others. So, how can we imagine the opposite? A world that is egalitarian, that is governed by kindness, that looks at the system holistically and really understands this idea that any harm that I might cause to anyone or anything within the collective whole will affect me as well. If we were to really understand this concept, it's really in Buddhism, it is called the law of dependent origination. And the idea is that nothing in this material world arises independently from anything else. Everything is interconnected. So it doesn't behoove me to harm my fellows to get something for myself, because it is in fact me harming myself on a basic level. I mean, like, let's look at it just really practically. Like, if that's just feels too metaphysical, let's look at it practically. If you are a corporation and you're amassing wealth from producing toxic chemicals, and you are polluting the rivers and around you, or the oceans around you, then those pollutants are going to leach into the groundwater. They're going to affect the crops and the animals that drink of that water. And you eventually will either breathe or ingest those toxins in some way. There's no way around it. So there is no doing it to those people over there. It affects all of us. And so, again, how can we imagine a world that tends to each living being's needs in a good enough way? And how can we imagine putting energy and effort into creating this new world? Because, this is the thing. Swords are thoughts, ideas, communication. Wands are passion, creativity, life force, energy. We first must conceive of an idea, and then we have to put energy into it in order to bring it into being. We have to partake of this divine inspiration. Wands are fiery. And I think very much associated with this Aries season that we are in. We have come into spring. There are many planets that are in Aries at the moment. Aries is the I am, the beginning of the astral year. It is spring. It's when, the fires return to the earth in order to bring about new life. And aces are like getting a divine download from the universe. It is this fiery, inspired call to action in order to begin something new. And this is, again, on the death of the old way, these cards, the Tower, the Devil, Death, have been coming up consistently for many months now. And it is because we are in the fall of the system. There is so much corruption that has infected the roots, and it all has to be torn out in order for us to plant new seeds. So the end of the old way gives way to something else. And of course, this is true in nature that, when a mighty tree falls in the forest, its death becomes the sustenance, the energy for all these other living beings, the beetles and the mushrooms and the microorganisms in the soil all feed off of the rotting body of the tree in order to give life to everything else. So we can think of it in this way that this is a natural cycle. The old way falls, a new way is born. And central to this idea is, again, this very simple anchor in our imagination about how we can orient ourselves in the world. And it's just about meeting our needs in the most basic of ways. The Six of Pentacles is giving from the overflow. It's saying that we can afford to be generous with our time and our energy and our resources when our coffers are full. So again, it's sort of speaking to the importance of everybody's needs being met. That if everyone has the basics provided for, shelter, food, companionship, community, water, clean air, when these basic needs are met, then there's an effervescent flow of energy that can move out into the world and give back to the community. When people are starving, when they're destitute and struggling, they don't have any extra energy to give to anyone or anything else. Imagine living in a world where it wasn't necessary to steal anything. You had what you need already. And so imagine, if you will, living in this state where generosity becomes second nature. I have everything that I need. And so I can spend my time and my energy giving to others. And so two things that we're being called to watch for at this time as we're making this transition from one state of being to another is to not get stuck in old stories or old paradigms, and to not be afraid to want something better than what we have right now in terms of the way that we have envisioned society at large. The Five of Swords is no ground gained or lost. It's a stalemate. It's sort of like getting stuck in a well-worn neurological groove and not being able to use your imagination to see some new way, new to in order to create something new, you have to get out of this mindset that this is just the way things are. It's the way they've always been. There are no other options. That this is a very dangerous state of mind. And by the way, it's when we're afraid, when we're feeling hopeless or despairing, it's really easy to get stuck in that old narrative. And so just having the ability to believe that maybe there are possibilities that I can't quite see from where I sit at the moment, and to be open to them, to stay open-minded. That's so much of what the Page of Swords is asking of us, to cultivate beginner's mind, to not assume that we know all the information, that we have all the data at our fingertips, to be able to imagine something bigger than the way things are right now. And the Seven of Cups is what I call emotional vagary, sort of like being in confusion or delusion around how you feel about something. And in general, this card comes up in readings when we're afraid that we're not going to get what we want or we're going to lose what we have. So you can think of this sort of murky, self-imposed fogginess as a kind of protective measure. We are trying to protect ourselves against the disappointment of loss. And yet, the universe cannot conspire to bring you your heart's desire until you are willing to claim it. So again, it is so essential for us to recognize what we most want in this world. Loving relationships that are mutually supportive, beautiful natural spaces that are thriving and healthy, having our needs met, all our basic needs being provided for in a good way. The time and energy and impetus to have creative inspiration and bringing that to the world at large. You know, we have to claim this as a vision, as a collective vision, to feel into what it would be like to live in that world, and to allow that energy generated from the heart to find its way into action so that we can come into a material manifestation of the world that is lush and flourishing, that is full of life. The Queen of Pentacles is very similar archetypally to the Empress. She is like an Earth Mother. Her promise is that all the seeds that get planted will blossom and bear fruit. She asks us to, again, take that vision that we are cultivating, to feed our life force energy into that vision, to pursue this vision with undying loyalty, to feel our way into how we're going to express this new way of being after the old way has fallen. And how can we care for ourselves and others and the planet so that life is abundant? This is the vision. This is, we're being called to harness all that Aries energy and manifest it relationally. under the guise of this Libra full moon. So I wish you all many blessings, and I'm sending you much love. Take care.